Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a bit of a shakedown of what gear I brought with me to Scotland. Now I meant to do this on a walk, except I was doing my grocery shopping earlier and I got distracted on the way and just picked loads of chestnuts because it's that time of year and they're really beautiful at the moment. So did that instead and thought, do you know what, I'll just film it at home. Yeah, so without further ado, let's go! Change location! So I hope you'll forgive me, I live by a noisy road, so yeah, there's gonna be some sounds. I'm filming this with two cameras in case I want to show anything close up, because the GoPro doesn't really do close up very well. So I weighed this today as well. Bear in mind it's been a few months since I've done this hike. So I wanted to know how much my base weight was, and before I start unpacking this, my base weight was at around 15 to 15.5 kilos, including the shoes, the tent, and like the filming gear as well, which I included in that weight. So yeah, it was probably it was probably the heaviest that I've packed any bag in years. I tend to use smaller bags, but for Scotland I felt like this was going to be the best option because I carried 2 pairs of shoes, I carried a few extra clothes for when we were going to be in Fort William and stuff, so hence the bigger bag. And also I needed something where, because I flew back from Scotland, I needed something where I was going to be able to fully put all my gear inside, including the hiking poles, so that I could check in the bag rather than, yeah, so it's just what it had to be. But it's a great bag, to be fair. It's the Osprey Ariel 65 AG. So yeah, and I've had this bag for 4 years or something like that, and I rarely ever actually use it for hikes because it's so massive, but was useful this time. So before I start unpacking this fella, let me show you. So the shoes, some of you will already know this, and they're quite dirty at the moment. I use the Vivobarefoot TRACKER II FG Women's, I want to say that's what they're called. The full gear breakdown will be in the description of the video anyway. So let's put these to the side. Then the tent. So for the Scotland hike, Hannah and I actually shared the weight of the tent. Fully packed with everything, this is 1.72 kilos. It is the MSR Hubba Hubba NX. Hopefully it focuses. Hubba Hubba NX for 2 people, and it did us a great service when we were in Scotland. When Hannah and I did the hike, we shared the load, so I think she carried the poles and I carried the tent out front of the rucksack. So that's that. Then I always carry a fanny pack. This is just one that I picked up years ago from Lorenz, apparently, I have no idea. And it just contains bits and bobs. It has my compass, it has my knife, which I bought in the Alps a long time ago. Don't know if you can see. It has like really nice design to it with some mountain goats and stuff like that on it. Anyway, some carabiners. Normally my phone goes in here. I have like a mask in there, and then my filming equipment goes in this bigger pocket here. Obviously it's not in there today, but that's where it normally goes, and that obviously goes out front. Okay, let's get on to this beast. So I'm going to unpack it from the outside in, and also just for anyone who hasn't done a long distance hike before, I think this just, you know, it's useful tips hopefully for you to think like when you're packing your first overnight bag or even over several days. Anything that you might need to use during the day, things like rain clothes, and a pad for when you need to sit down, things like that. need to be ideally on the outside of your pack. We'll start by removing the hiking poles, which I did use in Scotland, and I tend to use if I am going like for several days somewhere, because they help with your knees and things like that. These are Black Diamond Women's hiking poles. These are great. They have saved my life so much. I actually one day might do like a dedicated video to them because I love them so much. Okay, so then we have gas pad. I just bought this on Amazon years ago. Then we have, this was an impulse buy just before I went to Scotland actually, but it was the best decision. I'd always wanted a GORE-TEX jacket, rain jacket, and it is a Rab jacket, so you know it's good quality, serious. But no, I don't just because it's a because it's a brand, don't just do that. But in this case, really good. It's got a big hood as well. It's got a pocket inside for your phone and things like that, and it's great. I'll have to find the exact name and put that in the description as well. Yeah, this served me well in Scotland. What else? In the front here, so I had a cap, obviously. I had a cap on. It's very important to bring a hat on a hike. You never know what kind of weather you might encounter. This is a marmot hat, or cap, or whatever they're called. Rain trousers. I did bring to Scotland, I did bring my Gaiters. These are GORE-TEX as well, and they just keep your feet dry. Oh, it's Rab as well. I was trying to find the brand and I couldn't remember. So yeah, these are Rab Gaiters, and they're really brilliant. You know, 3 seasons of the year, the UK is like a mud fest. So these are great for that. And I think I used them once or twice in Scotland. That's it for the front. So what have we got on the sides? On the left side I don't have anything. On the right side, so you never know, you might be in the middle of the wilderness somewhere and you might just suddenly really need to go number 2. You might do, you might not, but you might do. So it's really useful actually to carry your trowel outside in the external part of your bag. This is a Deuce of Spades trowel. I've talked about it in the previous gear video. It's very lightweight, and I always carry it together with a pack of tissues and an empty Ziploc bag. And you know why? Because you have to, when you've dug your hole and you've done your business, you might be using some tissues. Some people don't use tissues. Some people use other things, like wipes or things like that. But if you have any kind of waste, you have to bring it with you. So that's what that bag is for. This is just the rain cover in there. Okay, so let's do the top pocket. So to Scotland, I brought a water filter, which is the Soya Mini, sorry, not Squeeze. And I had like a 1 litre bag with it, so it's this one. We go. And yeah, it was useful. I've since started using a different filter. I will talk about this other filter in a future video. But yes, again, water filtration also will happen like whilst you're en route sometimes, so it's good to have the filter somewhere externally where you can, not externally, but just easier accessible. Next we have first aid kit and also toiletries bag. So in here, I'm not going to give you a full rundown, but I've got some sunscreen, I have my face cream, I have like a sleep mask. Those are some of the toiletries, obviously toothbrush, all that stuff. Then you also have painkillers, deep heat, you have things for blisters and things like that, all sorts of stuff in there. Now, I just put this together myself, but you know, You can also buy ready-made ones. And Hannah and I, when we did the hike, we sort of shared some of it. So she took some things that she already had brought with her, and then I left some things behind, so that we weren't double carrying things. And in the same vein, what I did bring myself was I brought baby powder. I watch a lot of videos from a YouTuber called Fit for Adventure, and she explained her foot routine in the evenings and mornings and things like that, and she uses baby powder as part of that routine to help keep her feet dry and to not develop like athlete's foot. So I used that for the first time on that hike, and it was brilliant. I forgot to put this in my electronics bag, but this is a charger. Let's have a look. Yes, electronics bag. This is probably incomplete at the moment because I would have slightly more things in there, but it also has my torch in there and some cables for charging like the GoPro, my phone, etc. Pretty straightforward. I have a little extra bag of wipes to be used after the business. Or I use hand gel as well. What else? Oh, of course, in Scotland, you had to have a head net with you. Absolutely necessary. We went there early June, so it was mid-season. It was, yeah, very, very much a necessity in Scotland, unless you want to get eaten alive. Then I just have this to wipe the tent down. It's just a cloth thing that dries really easily. So that's the top. Now, let's get into the contents of the bag. Oh, hang on. In here, there's this little extra pocket, and I had soap, very important, insect repellent, and hand gel. Now, these things might change places, you know, depending on what you're doing. What I often like to do, if I am carrying a bag that has a lid, when I get to camp, I will just take the lid off, put that in the tent as it is. Something's whistling somewhere. Anyway, so then we have, this has a nice big, it has it's a very secure bag, I have to say. It has lots of stuff, like Osprey do really good secure bags. So I put together, like, really quickly today, just a bit of a food bag. So just to give you an example, basically. So this would be where I would put my dinners and breakfasts, and then lunch bag would be separate, which I don't have today because that's a lot of like fresh things, like wrap, you know, like wrap, hummus, carrots, whatever you've got for the day. So in here I just chucked a few fire pot meals, you know, snacks, things like that. Snacks would be, although today they're all in here, snacks would be like in the external pockets. They would be accessible so that while I'm hiking I can have them. Yeah, and I've got like coffee and things like that. But yeah, I just thought I would show this as an example. Rustling, every day I'm rustling. Can you tell I've just had coffee? Anyway, so to Scotland I also brought, I always bring this. I really, really love my platypus bottle. I just think it's great because when it's empty it weighs practically nothing, but it has a 2 litre capacity, I don't know. Yeah, and it's great. You've seen this in videos before. It's just really, really handy, and I'll usually bring it as like an extra water container if I need to stock up a little bit. So next, so like modern day hiking, especially in the UK, like plastic is your friend. I just want to say, like, you really, really need to have everything in plastic, or just have everything in one big dry bag, but just have some kind of system where things are in dry bags, because like everything can get wet potentially. You really want to stay dry when you're at camp and things like that. So you want to kind of separate things out so that if you are dealing with rain, especially if it's on a regular basis, if it's a lot, then you really want to make sure you're dry. So this is so I always have a separate bag with like notepad or journal, a book, maybe not such a bulky one, but I just thought I'd use that as an example. And when we did the West Highland Way, of course, I bought this secondhand off of eBay, I think, and it was absolutely fine. It contains a map as well. So, ta-da! It contains a map. We use that as our main. The West Highland Way is like really, really easy to follow. There's signs everywhere. Every junction, it'll say very clearly where the West Highland Way is going. So it's really, really easy to follow. I did buy one map for Ben Nevis Fort William, number 392. And the reason I did that is because on the end section, I had planned like an alternative if we felt like it. We didn't end up doing the alternative, but yeah. And there's a pen in here as well somewhere, but you get the gist. So, putting that aside, what do we have next? So, on the Scotland hike, I brought a fleece for like camp wear, like a kind of nicer looking fleece, which I just bought at the time, which you saw in one of my other videos as well. This is Ayacucho, Ayacucho, which is a brand I think owned by Cotswold Outdoors, and this is a fleece made entirely of recycled plastic bottles, which blows my mind. It's my favorite fleece since I bought it in May, and it's so cozy. And yeah, so I would bring that usually. So I brought that to Scotland, and would wear it in the evenings when it was cold. I did also bring my down jacket, which I'll get to in a moment, because there were times when the down jacket was a bit better, like it was just a bit more cozy, but it wasn't really necessary to bring both, if I'm honest with you. I think that was probably a luxury. But then when we were in Fort William, this fleece was great because the down jacket can be too warm for like everyday use. But yeah, and I brought this is part of the reason I had to go for a bigger bag, is because I brought a second pair of shoes. These are quite tatty. I have since upgraded my trainers, but they were useful like at camp, so I didn't have to wear the hiking shoes and things. Yes. What do we have next? I'm just gonna bring out a few things. So, a couple of random bits that are in the bag that I always bring. One is an emergency bivvy by Soul, and it is just useful to have in case there's an accident or something like that. Maybe you need to wrap yourself in that to stay warm, or maybe someone else. I did bring a Trek towel as well with me. This is, I think, the XL. Yeah, because you need to be able to, when you're wearing it, you need to be able to cover both areas. And the other ones are too small. I brought a little extra pack, so I brought a little day pack, if you will, which just like compresses into this little pocket-sized things. This is by Vango, and I used this in Fort William when we were going around, and it was also my sort of hand luggage, if you will, on like travel to and from Glasgow and Fort William and all that. This is my down jacket. You've seen it in plenty of videos. I'm not going to unpack it because it'll just go poof. But yes, and again, this is in a dry bag separately, very important. Then I've talked about this one before. I'll just quickly tell you what it is. It's my cooking gear. So I've taken recently, in the last year or so, I've taken to keeping it in a dry bag itself, just for separation, just to make sure it's easy to find as well. So in here I included the spoon, which is the Sea to Summit long-handed spoon. Long-handed? Long-handled, surely. Anyway, that. It also includes the the support for the pot and the gas canister. And then it has, you know, the usual. So it has a gas canister at the bottom. There we go. Pretty straightforward. I've got the mug as well, the Tatonka steel mug. I always put a towel between the two so that they don't rattle. So yeah, this is, yeah, and then the Stanley pot as well. I've talked about this stuff before, so I'm not gonna linger on this too much. The capacity for the pot, I think, is 750 ml, I wanna say. Yeah, then I've, years ago, I cut myself a little sponge out of this. And it's just really cute and yeah, it's great. And I have the MSR Pocket Rocket 2, which anyone who's looking at this who's mildly aware of like outdoorsy gear will know very well, I'm sure. And it's been in plenty of my videos. And then I just have a couple of bits and pieces. I've got a lighter, although I don't really use it anymore. I just use the fire starter spark thing. I'm not gonna light it in here, but yeah. Yes, my cooking stuff. Just put to the side. There we go. Oh yeah, my windshield. You would have again seen this in some videos. Very important, especially going somewhere like Scotland. So here's one of the bigger bags. This is my clothes bag. And so this includes part of what I would have worn on the hike at the time. So it would include like the kind of daytime fleece, which is thinner, which I would wear under like the rain gear if needs be. A couple of t-shirts, a pair of shorts as well, some obviously the like base layers for sleeping at night, which are just my pajamas basically at the time. So yeah, maybe someday I'll do like a separate rundown of what clothing I wear for hiking and depending on the seasons and stuff like that. But yeah, layers are your friend essentially. So you know, layers are what you need to be thinking about when you're going for a hike, because you may have times, even when it's cold weather, you may have times when you're really warm. So you need to be able to shed layers and add layers as you sort of need to and want to. There's a few pairs of socks in here as well. So for the hike, I actually used these Darn Tough. Oh yeah, they are Darn Tough. I used these Darn Tough socks. These are thin ones. I can't remember the exact name of them, but they are brilliant. I'm actually like just in love with Darn Tough socks. I just think they're brilliant. I just think they're great. And then I've got I had liners as well from Bridgedale. But yeah, clothing. And hang on, before I do the sleeping stuff, actually, let me just get the water out. So as you can see, there's this water thing. So this is empty right now, but this was the sort of main water container that I used, which is a Camelback 3-liter water reservoir or water bladder. And it was good. I do like this, and I think for some hikes it's great, but actually in retrospect for Scotland, I think I would have preferred like just bottles, like a combination of bottles and just the platypus bottle. I don't know, because it was kind of annoying to sort of use and fill, and just because of the size of the bag as well is so huge. But I have a couple of other hikes where this has served me absolutely fine. So it all depends on, you know, your preferences really and your needs. Funny anecdote, funny story. Hannah was using bottles and was using like, we were both using the same water filter, but she didn't end up using my filter a lot, or maybe I often ended up filtering water for the both of us. And there was like times where we'd be at camp and I would just be like, having to wait to squeeze enough water out of the reservoir, and she'd already be boiling her water, and she'd just be a bit like, yeah, the more I see you use this, the less I'm, you know, a proponent of water bladders. And I was like, it's like, whatever, show off. Right, the final big piece of kit, is several, but it's all the sleeping stuff. So in one dry bag, I have all the sleeping stuff put together. So let's put this over to the side. In here, I have my sleeping mat. Sometimes I just take this out of the packaging and fold it like kind of flat instead of rolling it, but this is the Sea to Summit Etherlite XT. It is the women's version, so it's a little bit warmer and it's kind of a little bit wider as well. So yeah, I really love this sleeping mat. It's very good. I have a sleeping bag liner, which I didn't really use a lot in Scotland because it was warm enough to just use the sleeping bag, but this is good for keeping your sleeping bag sort of clean. Because obviously you're not very clean when you're out there and stuff, so, and sleeping bags are a pain to wash. So yeah, and then I have my pillow, which is just Trekology, I think. And yeah, and then finally the sleeping what is this called? Sleeping bag. Wow. Sorry guys. So this is my sleeping bag. It is Exped. I'll put the name in the description. I can't remember what it is. Oh, hang on. It says it all here. Exped Winterlite. It's comfort -1, limit -6. So yeah, I kind of use this throughout the year, although of course there will be times when it's too warm. But in like autumn through spring, like in the colder days, this is sort of borderline sometimes. I might have to use extra layers and things to really make sure that this keeps me warm. So yeah, it's kind of like a 3-season, but depends. Yeah, in the UK you probably get away with it. In Scotland, I don't think you would get away with this. Like in winter, you would definitely need something warmer. Yeah, that's everything. So with packing your rucksack, even when rucksacks have an opening at the bottom, I don't really use it anymore. I tend to pack everything from the top. So you're kind of playing Tetris with it. This even opens like a bit of a suitcase if you wanted to. I didn't really use that when we were in Scotland, just because I feel most organized when I can just put the sleeping stuff at the bottom first, compress it, because the down compresses quite a lot, so you can kind of get a lot of it down there, and then put the clothes bag in. That's your next biggest thing. And then, well, you saw the order in which I took stuff out. So the food is always going to be at the top because you want to be able to reach that quite easily. The only annoying thing is like water. If you have to refill your water like halfway through the day, and you have to fill your reservoir, your main reservoir, that gets kind of annoying. So that's the other point about why I didn't enjoy using my water reservoir this much on the Scotland trip. And finally, I just want to add that everyone hikes a hike differently. So the way that I pack, the contents of what I packed and what I brought might not necessarily work for you. It's something that is entirely subjective. Yes, there are certain rules where a lot of people may find them useful, like keeping stuff dry and stuff like that, which I feel is common sense, but everyone's going to have a different experience. Everyone's going to have different levels of comfort as well, and of things that they can sort of tolerate out in the hills. So yeah, just wanted to kind of add that as well, because we're all different and we're all going to need and want different things from these experiences. So yeah, hike your own hike, as they say. Also, please let me know in the comments if you liked the format of this video, or if you want me in future to go over this kind of stuff more often. I can look at doing that as well. Yeah, let me know. So thank you so much for watching that, guys. I hope you found something useful in my little breakdown of what I brought with me to Scotland. And yeah, just wanted to announce a couple of things. I've got some more videos coming soon. I did a trip in France in July and hiked in the mountains, the real big mountains, the Alps. So very excited to share that with you. And yeah, a couple more other things and trips that I went on. So those videos are coming. It's just hard balancing a full-time job with also having a social life and trying to find time to edit. And also, I think in the summer, I just wanted to make the most out of the long days and just be out there and actually like hike and do the stuff rather than sort of sitting at my desk editing for hours. So yeah, but I'm getting back onto it, and just wanted to thank you for watching. If you've seen part 1 and part 2 of the Scotland hike, if you haven't, what are you waiting for? But yeah, I'll see you very, very soon, guys. If you liked this video, consider subscribing, and tell your grandparents, friends, and pets. That's not the order I do it in. I don't know why I started saying this, but I just started saying it. Okay, deal with it. Okay, bye!